Welcome back, guys, to another episode of Business from the Bass Boat Podcast. I am your host, Adam Deacon. And guys, today we have an exciting episode lined up. We have Shawn BUDIAC from X2 Power. He's leading the marketing efforts behind the brand, and I'm super excited to get him on and talk about everything X2 Power. It is a brand that has been pushing into the fishing industry pretty hard, especially over this last year. Done some incredible things. So curious to bring him on. Let's bring him into the show here. Shawn, how are you today, man?
Doing great, Adam.
Good. Thanks for taking the time out of a busy schedule to come on the show.
Yeah, of course. Glad to be on here.
Awesome, man. Well, you and I were talking a little bit before the show here, and it sounds like you fished in your first tournament this last weekend. Tell us a little bit about it.
It was the first bass tournament I've ever fished in. So it was a learning experience, to say the least. Obviously, we didn't take first or even near the top, but to get out on a lake on a Saturday morning with 55 other boats, kind of a big bass style tournament, was pretty cool. I was even telling my wife already, my friend Dave and I were co-angling in it, and was already talking to my wife about the Thursday leagues that we're going to get into now and the future Saturday tournaments, and kind of see where this goes, because it's just awesome to be out there.
Man, it's a drug, isn't it?
It is. Dude. That's it. It's exactly what we were saying on the boat.
Yeah.
My friend Dave was talking about kind of feels a little bit like gambling. It's that when's that next cast, and if we move from this spot, the next cast could be the big one.
Yeah. No, and it's just an interesting thing to kind of explain to people. It's really cool because you're in a position to where you're experiencing that firsthand after dealing with pros that have been doing this for a living and that kind of a thing. But when I explain it to people, tournament fishing, because, I have a lot of friends and I'm a huge outdoorsman in general, hunting and fishing, and they are confused with why I'm so obsessed with tournament bass fishing and this and that. And it's like you get it, especially, and you'll experience this kind of as you keep doing these, like you're saying, Thursday nighters, that kind of a thing. When you catch one, like a big one, say a good fish, 3.5, 4 pounder during a tournament, I get shaky sometimes, I mean, it's a feeling that is not the same when I stick a 5 pounder just fun fishing. It's something else, because you're like, something's on the line here, whether it be $20 or $100,000 or whatever it may be. There's a weird feeling, and I think people have to kind of experience it.
No, I agree. Even just the feeling of getting out on the lake, standing around with all those other anglers, doing the whole rules and launch and all that stuff. It's just a totally different experience. I spent a lot of time on the water, just myself or me and my kids or my wife. And you're right, that 5 pound small that you hook into on your own on a rock bar is a heck of a lot different than, knowing that bass might be the one that puts you at the top.
Yeah, exactly. No, and did you guys kind of have a traditional launch in the morning, or how did that? Because it was a big bass style event, right?
Yeah, big bass style. It was a kind of a local charity event, which was pretty cool. It actually featured 10 boats on it that were veterans that were paired with local guides, and then the rest of the field. So you kind of launched, got into the main area, and they kind of did the whole boat 22 follows 21, and kind of work your way out to the water, and from there go. So it was it was a real cool experience, and really cool to be part of that. And honestly, even just meeting guys that are doing this day in and day out, and starting to make some of those connections, in southeastern Wisconsin here is pretty cool.
Absolutely, man. Yeah. And we'll kind of get into, you and I had met at the Classic this last year. You guys had an awesome booth there, man. I thought it was incredible. I guess correct me if I'm wrong, but that was your first Classic experience.
That was the very first Classic experience, and it's going through the ups and downs of, getting there, setting up, you're not yet, nothing on paper looks like it does in person. So worried about where you are, where's the traffic going to flow. And it was really cool to be part of, in an area, albeit not, the main big room with, the huge brands,
sure,
right next to it. And, fortunate enough to also be there with some really big brands. Lowrance was, we could see the Lowrance booth. We could see Plano right next to us. Blackfish was right behind us. So we were definitely in the presence of, some great industry brands, and we're very fortunate. It was just cool talking about batteries 3 straight days with people that are passionate about batteries. It's really cool for us, and it was definitely a success.
Awesome, man. Yeah, no, I agree. That's an interesting thought process too, as far as like the layout and everything. And that was my first classic personally as well. And um, man, you guys were in a great location. First of all, I thought you guys were in one. I mean, it was either the main room or your room, right? As far as that had air conditioning and had the big brands. But I mean, I thought some folks, like, I was just thinking to myself, gosh, if I had come here with a brand and paid for a booth and I'm stuck in the heat in the back in a
Yeah.
corner where no one is, like, I would have been pretty frustrated, you know? And I think that a lot of that had to do with, you know, the classic changing dates and all that, and then having to figure all of that out. But I thought you guys had a great draw, and I'm not sure exactly how that process worked, but you were around some incredible brands. I completely agree.
Yeah, around incredible brands, we had a lot of our pros, which we'll get into, I'm sure, but
Yeah.
a lot of our pros had spent some time there. So getting, recognizable faces sitting right next to our brand, and seeing seeing not only the anglers, but seeing the kids light up when they recognize Carl at our booth, and getting autographs from him was really cool. So it's just being there was amazing. Being able to, it's my first classic as well. So being able to go into the arena and see the weigh-in, and kind of see our guys come across the stage was just a great experience. Can't wait till next year.
Yeah, exactly. No, I'm the same way. I don't think I'm going to miss one now. Like that was an incredible experience. All right, man. Well, let's break down kind of a little bit about a background with yourself, and then kind of go into the story around X2. But where did it kind of all begin for you? Did you grow up fishing? Are you from that North Woods area, or I guess southern Wisconsin, or what's kind of your background, man?
So I characterize myself. Yeah, grew up fishing. I think I was the typical kid with the go get a rented boat, throw an old Evinrude on it, and sit there with bobber and worm for a long time.
Yeah.
My dad always took us out. It's more like opportunistic. When you got baseball and soccer and football and all those things that take up your time, you're kind of doing it when you can. I've always grown up in southeast Wisconsin. We're about 45 minutes west of Milwaukee. And I think kind of the big change in my outdoors lifestyle, if you will, came with meeting my wife. Her family has always been in the outdoors. One of the families in Wisconsin, very fortunate to have grandma and grandpa invest in a cottage way up north. We're 10 miles away from the Upper Peninsula border when we go, and that was being involved in her family is what got me the first day in a deer stand to a week later buying a bow and being all in on bow hunting and deer hunting to just those times when we were up on the cottage. We've been married 12 years and 13 years and together 15, and it's been 15 years of going up to the cottage once a week or once a week a summer. We're now at a point where we go up two times a summer. And I've got my 8-year-old, my 10-year-old fully ready to go and get out on the water, and that's really kind of what's truly advanced, if you will, kind of the outdoor side of our family.
Yeah, very cool. And I haven't spent any time in the North Woods of Wisconsin per se. Maybe my only experience that may be close. I did a trip my senior year of high school to the Boundary Waters between Minnesota and Canada, and I don't know, it was incredible, man. It was untapped wilderness. I mean, there was so many critters everywhere, wolves and bears and just deer everywhere. And the fishing was, I mean, incredible. I caught my personal best smallmouth up there, and I actually ended up catching a big largemouth too, a big northern strain that was really rare, I guess, for where we were. But untapped, man. By fishing, it was awesome.
Yeah, I think it's safe to say that my entire family's personal best smallmouths were caught on this 500-acre lake that we fish day in and day out. And we've discovered the rock bars and where the big ones are hitting. We've worked every reline you can, and have now kind of finally figured it out. So it's, my daughter's got great experience catching a 4+ pounder on ultralight up there. We got it on video. To my wife, and I was present with my father-in-law 2 years ago when he caught his personal best. Fishing up there 30+ years. It's amazing when you're up there. To be one of 2 or 3 boats on the water, maybe the only guy fishing smallmouth when others are fishing muskie, is pretty cool.
Yeah, Dude, those are kind of unique places, man. And I think something just so I'm in Colorado here and spent a lot of time in a lot of the western part of the U.S. because I like a big factor of it is there's less people, right? But I think people have to realize too, like there's pockets of the country that are very remote that people don't realize on
Oh
the
yeah.
eastern part too. You know, I mean, you look at like some of the upstate New York and those kinds of areas, like um, I don't know. This is really, really cool as far as just pockets like that. And then you go way up in the north woods of Wisconsin and Minnesota, and it's just there's some really cool places that aren't I wouldn't say ruined by people, but don't have a
No, it's spot on, but it's just getting up there, and if anything, it's not only the chance to get on the water, it's that chance to just decompress, to put the worries of everything else you're worried about behind you, and just get out there and fish. Pretty awesome.
Exactly, man. Cool. Cool. Well, you had mentioned too that you had got a boat this last year with your family and everything. What's that experience been like? And it sounds like you're getting the kids involved in everything you can too.
Yeah, so we finally did the bit the bullet and went all in on a boat.
Yeah.
We're at the stage right now where it's kind of the family boat, so it's not yet the. I sent my wife a bunch of pictures from the tournament about my future boat, that all these guys are driving around. But it's just a 19-foot Glastron. It's ski boat, but it's the fish and ski that's got a live well and a trolling motor off the front and Lowrance unit on it. So it's the best of both worlds for me. The kids want a tube or the kids want a water ski, we can do that. Sit at a sandbar and then jump in the boat and go fishing.
Yeah.
And it's been a chance to really get the kids involved. I think I even discovered this year, if I kind of look back at my fishing life and, as I said, the bobber and the worm and all that's great. And I think I've just finally discovered with my 8-year-old, we cracked the code. He doesn't want to do that. So we're up there with the boat this past summer or the first week of this summer we were up there, and he's throwing swim jigs, out to the reeds, and is sitting out there 4 or 5 hours, and doesn't even care what he catches. It catches a northern, and he's happy. He wants to sit and try the next point. And it's all about having that boat and giving them the opportunity to experience that. And then just together, him and I even experiencing the idea of just spending hours out there with it is pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think those boats, those fish and skis are awesome family boats, man. I was talking to a Ranger dealer, and that I think they call it the Rieta Ranger. That's their fish and ski. It's like an 18 and a half or something foot boat. That's their best selling boat. I mean, it's just as far as like traditional consumer, if you're looking for that all around boat where you can go pull a tube behind it, have room, be comfortable with the family. Man, those are, and like you said, awesome starter boats. And man, there's plenty of guys that fish out of those for just the thought process of the family, and fish tournaments out of them too, and like you said, eventually you get a little bit, look around and you're like, man, that 21-foot boat looks pretty nice there, big on it, tournament fishing and more graphs and all this and that.
Yep.
But that's awesome, man. Well, it's good to hear. We'll kind of get into X2 now. So you mentioned you've kind of been had a really big background in the battery industry. Talk a little bit about your background in the battery industry in general, and then we'll kind of go into the marine battery industry and how that may differ from like the traditional car battery industry and what kind of the differences are maybe.
Yeah, no, I've spent 15 plus years of my life just in the battery industry overall, and that's whether it's battery industry from boat and automotive batteries that everyone naturally thinks of to worrying about what batteries go into cell phones along the way, and anything you could do with power has kind of been a passion of mine in my career. Mm-hmm. And you start to you and I chatted a little bit about this, but we start to look at the battery industry as a whole, and you're always there to try to save someone's day. Meaning, no one thinks about changing a boat battery until dad and daughter are out watching a boat and the thing won't turn on, and you're going, I just ruined our day.
Yeah.
And it's been really neat to be part of the X2 Power brand launch and making this be bigger and bolder. to this angler base and water base to see us really be able to kind of make the battery cool.
Yeah.
How do I step into a world where the battery is a needs-based purchase? You don't buy it till you need it, to something where you start to go and say, what if I invested a little bit more in the power source, and how could I make my graphs brighter, my trolling motor run longer, or just my fish and ski boat last all day using everything. It's been very cool. So yeah, it's been a great, career that I've had in this industry. And I think the last year of my life in it, being able to step in and work on kind of the marketing, the PR efforts, and the brand build around X2 Power have really just escalated, that passion, for this industry, and have escalated the passion for what a battery can do for a very specific industry like the fishing side of things.
Yeah. Kind of a thought process I had when I was kind of brainstorming for this episode. I'm going to compare it, and I just thought about this now when you were talking about bow hunting, and that's a passion of mine too. It's interesting to me how much people are willing to spend on a bass boat, right, or a bow, and have all these components, right, all your power poles, your graphs, and on your bow, your quiver, and all these different components that cost all this money. It's very expensive. And I think the best comparison to me when it comes to batteries, and then you're comparing it to a bow, which is a weird combination, but I just thought this, like, people complain about the cost of a broadhead, right?
Yeah.
On an arrow. And it's like, oh, well, this is a $40 broadhead for 3-pack. I'm going to shoot these ones that are $20. It's like all this practice and time, all this money that went into your bow comes down to the one sole thing on the front of it. And if you don't have a performing broadhead, what's the point? Right. And so, like, to me, people spend all this money on their boat, their graphs, all this, and then they're like, I'm going to go buy the cheapest lead acid. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that for a traditional guy, that's fishing every once in a while and that kind of a thing. But if you're investing serious money and time into tournament fishing and all that kind of a thing, your base should probably be pretty strong. Everything that's going to be powered, you should probably have something that's gonna cover your needs and then some.
For sure. I mean, you're spot on. It's, if you really start to look at our hobbies and our passions, we spend a lot of money on our passions and our hobbies, and it's not really all that. It's not consistently across the board. In the boating industry, as an angling industry, a lot of times the focus is really above deck, right? It is the power poles, it is the running live scope and all the graphs in your boat and whatnot. And now USB plugs everywhere to charge every device. It's not like you have this massive power source there, but it's the kind of the neglected piece of the puzzle that could really, even if you're not a professional angler, could still really ruin your day.
Yeah,
right? We had a unique experience a couple of years ago on that lake up north with my father-in-law and family. We were up there. I took the kids out. We had rented a pontoon boat. We were all fishing away across the lake, and had the live well running, had the radio on. We were just having fun, just pan fishing for hours, and radio shuts off all of a sudden. And I go, oh no. I open up the back of the boat, and here I'm staring at this battery that is like a 5-year-old. It's just a normal flooded battery, but 5-year-old battery. And because of that poor power source, even running very little, here I am sitting across the lake going, how do I get my kids home? Then I called my father-in-law at the time and, get him to drive his boat and shake his head at me as he's pulling me across the water. And it's just that is so important, but it's always something we just ignore until it's time to not ignore it anymore.
Yeah.
And it's usually a bad time. It's usually when you're stuck across the lake, with a dead battery.
Yeah, exactly, man. No. And it's kind of, it's interesting too. And you've probably got a better gauge on this than I do, but just from the consumer side and watching this, boat battery industry really expand into the lithiums and making things sexy again, right? With like boat batteries, you're bringing something from a something that, I'm going to be real, traditionally kind of sucks. Like batteries I've had issues with. Everyone has had issues. I don't know of one tournament angler that hasn't had something occur on probably a tournament day where it mattered with a boat battery issue. But we're seeing this push in the industry, in my eyes anyways, of all these different brands coming on, bringing lithiums on, talking about high level AGMs and all that kind of stuff. I guess talk a little bit about maybe why that push is, or where you see kind of some of this stuff going, just from an industry perspective.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's, the lithium is the latest and greatest, obviously, technology in this conversation. But if you step back and you go, all right, you look at a flooded battery that's been around for really forever, whether it be the car battery, boat battery, lawnmower battery, or golf cart battery, they were all designed and built for a certain level of we call power demands. Right? Okay. How many things are you running off that battery? So when you turn your car off and the radio still works and all these other things work, that's pulling purely off that battery source, that 12-volt battery. And as you look at how many things we put in all of our vehicles, like just you take the car, for example, you didn't have televisions behind the headrests and heated seats, and you start labeling off all these crazy things that these cars now have, and you go, all right, you can no longer power that with that older technology. And the same is exactly true for boats. My example of that pontoon, it was pretty bare bones. A live well and a small little draft and and a radio killing the battery. Now you look at those boats that I was in that competition against, running all those graphs and a power pole and everything possible, for a good 8-9 hour day, let alone how many hours they practice on that same lake if ahead of it. And you go, all right, the battery needs to catch up. Your option is either put more batteries in the boat, to power the exact same things, or just get better batteries. And that's where over the course of time, AGM technology has brought in and surfaced. So that's new automotive vehicles that are coming off lines are all using AGMs. Just a better sealed lead acid technology, fully sealed, just a lot more power. And that has been kind of step one in the evolution, where step two in the evolution is the advent of all these lithium products and the brands that are hitting the market today. So I think it all is all about, we just need more power. And as we look at our X2 Power product, it's really about the blue top product you see behind me is thin plate pure lead AGM technology. So when we were at the Classic, obviously the other brands and batteries that were there were lithium. And we had a lot of conversations with weekend warrior anglers and whatnot, and they wanted to say, hey, is this lithium? And they go to pick it up and they realize really quickly, no, it's the opposite. No, we got a lot of lead in here. We got a lot of power source in here. But we know that there's a space for both of these, in this world. And we're working through the lithium side of things as well. But that AGM technology is a great power source. The products that we have are, ultimately one of the best AGMs in the market. And it's really backed by just the success we're seeing out in the field. We've got quite a few anglers on the Elite Series and MLF that are running our products. And as we talk to, them and seeing the performance they saw this year, in their events, and then you kind of relay that to the conversation about, that person is heading out on weekend tournaments. There is a battery for everyone, in this space. And now all of a sudden, because of lithium, everyone wants to talk about the battery, which is pretty cool, being in the battery industry for 15 plus years and seeing that.
Sure. My face is getting kind of wonky here. Do you see that?
I do see that. Yeah.
I'm going to remove it and come back. Just give me one second. Oh gosh, that's weird, man. That's weird. I don't know if it's a camera thing. I don't know. Good news is a lot of this is audio, but that makes a lot of sense on why kind of we're seeing this push right to everything right now. Let's get into, I guess, X2, its current state right now with everything. It seems to me there's been a giant push into the fishing industry. What are your initial thoughts on the industry so far? And then we'll kind of get into some of your pro staff and that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So far, it's been an amazing journey, if you will, kind of 1 year in to the X2 Power real big push. And, I think the learnings are tremendous that we've had. 100%, on board with our strategy around X2 is, when you start to look at the boat and really owning all the power demands of that boat, you build that brand, and then you also are, able to, power the towing, the pickup truck that's towing that boat, the ATVs that are, used during the hunting season from that same individual.
Yeah.
We've got, and, in that angling and that boating industry, there's just so much passion around everything. Whether it is their boat or the plastics they're throwing out, the brands that they're using, there's so much passion. And when you get passion, you get conversation. I actually had for instance, I had a great conversation on the tail end of that tournament this weekend with a local angler who, essentially bought X2 Power batteries for their boat because a pro that they knew and saw had the same products in their boat, and they saw, well, if that pro who's running all day long, is what they do for a living, trusts that brand, I want to trust that brand.
Sure.
So you can just see how much connection there is in this industry, and it's just outstanding to see. And starting at the Classic and just through the whole the whole journey, meeting leaders and marketers of some of these other big brands, whether it be from places like Berkeley or Johnson Outdoors and Dakota, and kind of starting to see the connections in the industry has been pretty neat. So it's been a great learning journey for us. Proud to be able to be a brand that's really building a presence in this space, and we're really looking forward as we kind of plan out what's coming in for 2021, the rest of the year. And really what does the 2022 season look like? Very excited to see where this can go.
Yeah, man. Very cool. I completely agree. In my experience in the industry thus far has just been incredible. The connections and the people and just how everyone interacts. The passion, like you said, the passion is actually, it's just absurd, man. What all everyone has. And it's awesome. All right.
I'd say the passion. Yeah, the passion's amazing. And honestly, from whether it's been our pros that we've had conversations with and whatnot, or others in the industry, a very welcoming group, very down-to-earth group that's just really there to help everyone succeed in here.
Yeah, it's real people, man.
Yep.
All right, I am getting sick of this face thing, so give me just 1 second.
Okay.
I'm gonna leave the studio and come back. All right, man. Gosh, figured out the
That's
source
better.
of the issue. It was the GoPro. I run a GoPro connection to my computer, and I don't know if it got hot or what, but it was causing problems.
Okay.
All right, man. So sorry. So we were talking about just the industry in general and everything that you guys have kind of done to kind of push into this industry. You know, the first thing I noticed, first of all, with X2 is at the Classic. I was there when Carl was there. Man, your pro staff they're probably, I would argue, as far as pro staffs go, like my favorite anglers personally. You know, you've got guys like Carl, you've got Jeff Gustafson, Justin Atkins, Brent Ayler, like who's fishing today, by the way. I've been
Yep.
watching on Major League Fishing and he's pushing for Angler of the Year. Josh Douglas, man, is a guy I've followed for such a long time. I mean, you guys have just an incredible pro staff. Talk a little bit about kind of some of your relationships with those guys so far, and maybe some of the power that they have as a brand, representing a brand.
Yeah, I think the relationships so far have just been outstanding. You know, we've got guys on our staff that are truly great people. You know, we've gotten a chance to interact with them and have discussions sitting side by side at the Classic booth when, you know, if there wasn't anyone at the booth, just great people. And honestly, great. They do great work for, you know, the brands that are partners, you know, with them.
Yeah.
You start to jump on someone like, you know, pick anyone. Carl's, you know, social feeds, and he's always there making sure that, you know, he has great content he's being able to create for the brand, making sure he's, you know, taking a chance to, you know, represent all of his team, if you will, you know, more than anything. So we've got the interactions so far have just been top notch. The guys that we're partnered with have had great feedback with us. You know, I always want to make sure when we got a partner that we're truly a partner. You know, let's make sure that, you know, if they need anything, we're here for them. Obviously, getting the batteries in the boat was, you know, day one. You know, if they want to, you know, have another Jeff Gustafson, for instance, wanted to add another battery to his boat, you know, as he put them, you know, not for his trolling motor, but put them in parallel to just create more power, you know, for everything. Hey, let's jump all over it. Let's kind of take a look at it. He creates a video that shows everyone what he's doing, and it's just been great partnerships. Yeah, in talking with, you know, each of them, we're just real proud of kind of what we've been able to start year one. Mm-hmm. And like you said, you rattle down that list, and you got a couple guys already at the Classic, a couple guys, you know, fighting to get there. You got some Brents out there, you know, watching, you know, first, second place, you know, try to pursue that with Angler of the Year.
Yeah.
Just a great group. Yeah, it's been really cool too to see, you know, my son has, you know, really picked up on a couple of these guys as an 8-year-old.
Sure.
You know, he's got, to this day, there's a real cool thing someone that Carl does with his, you know, Fear My Heart side of his business. My son sits with his bracelet on all day long, you know, and is always talking about these guys. So it's really cool to see not only the connection to the X2 Power brand, but, you know, what good people, you know, working together can do to make impacts, you know, in this entire industry, whether it be the anglers on the weekend or those anglers' kids. It's pretty cool.
Exactly, man. No, it's really, really cool. That's awesome that you've kind of been able to build some of those relationships.
Okay.
Another side of your kind of branding that I have taken a big account to, because I think that this is something that I think some brands maybe overlook and don't see the value, A, and then B, the support to that grassroots stuff. You guys are partnered with a lot of tournament organizations, right? Yeah. So I'm fishing, actually, I fish the ABAs here in Colorado, and will qualify for the Havasu Championship with American Bass Association. But I fished that series. I noticed X2 Power was with that, you know, and then a couple of these other grassroots tournament organizations, and that's kind of just what I'm calling them on the bass side of things, right? But that is really cool to me, because it's supporting anglers that at the lower level, right? Everyone can see, okay, it's a BASS sponsor, a Major League Fishing major brand sponsor, and that's supporting the industry. Don't get me wrong, but some of these smaller organizations is what the average weekend guys fish, right? The weekend warriors, that kind of stuff. And those organizations need to have sponsors in this industry. And I guess talk a little bit about that kind of relationship and your thought process there, because it seems like you guys have a lot of these kind of organizations that you're pushing X2 towards.
Yeah, we've really done a good job, in my opinion, working kind of the entirety of the U.S. Right? You've got ABA, West Coast into Colorado and whatnot. You've got NABC kind of up here in the Midwest. We sponsor AIM on the walleye side of the business.
Okay.
We're literally planning 2 trips down to the Big Bass Splash events down at Fork and Sam Rayburn.
Yeah.
To not only be there to sponsor and to support that organization, but also literally have a physical presence there. To start just talking with those anglers, about the batteries they have in their boats, educating them on the difference from what they have today to what they could have tomorrow. And then in a lot of those instances, also talking about, the new technology that's evolving and is available. So yeah, I think it's important to not only have, that sponsorship, level of participation in that, but also take opportunities here and there, to really just talk one-on-one, with those anglers, and really help them learn more about, either their battery or the charging system that's hooked up to those batteries, and what the art of the possible is, with the right, configuration in their boat.
Sure. Yeah. No. Go ahead.
It's really interesting when you do make connections, in that space, and you really have great conversations. Those conversations produce the next conversation. And anglers talk to each other, and anglers I've had people reach out from the elite or the classic event, weekend anglers that I gave my business card to, and they're reaching out to me with questions about their batteries. It's just it's a constant flow of conversation that you just need to be ready to be present for.
Yeah. And man, one thing that you keep mentioning, Shawn, throughout this whole interview and this conversation has been the person-to-person connections. And whether that be at a trade show, at a tournament, whatever it may be, you're really talking about the value there. And I think that for listeners looking to be in the industry and kind of in this post-COVID thing now where people are communicating in person to person, it seems like you put a lot of value on that. And I think that is a really necessary part of any business, are those person-to-person connections. And like you said, it feeds into that next conversation of talking to their buddies about, man, what batteries are going to put in your boat this next year. And just having that personal connection, I don't know, is such a big driver in my eyes. And I just wanted to bring that point up and just say that it seems like you really keep bringing that back into things.
Yeah, I've kind of got a passion for that. Whether it's the team here at work that I'm doing, that we work with day in and day out, or these event opportunities, nothing beats that 10-minute conversation with someone. No email, no text message will ever beat that. And those are the connections that you make, that you go, all right, I kind of know that person a little bit better, now for having a conversation or for having just a connection point, something in common, what it would be angling or,
whatever
it would, just batteries. And making that connection is incredibly important. You mentioned Lake Havasu. We're going to be at that event.
Oh, nice, man.
Present to sit and talk with everyone and anyone and everyone that wants to talk about, our products and anything else.
Very cool, man. Awesome. Well, I think the only thing really we have last to talk about is let's talk about the actual batteries themselves, man. Let's talk about what maybe makes an X2 AGM unique in its own characteristics when you're talking about batteries, that kind of thing. Let's go through maybe some of the advantages, and let's start, I guess, with you talked about being completely fully sealed and that heaviness of the lead and all that. Let's talk about maybe some of the advantages of that rather than just saying that it's heavy.
Okay. Let me get battery geek on you for a second here.
Let's go battery geek.
I won't go too geek here, but I think it all, while our product, I'll get to our product in a second here, but when you start to look at batteries in boats, It really starts to, not only is there opportunity to get better batteries into your boat, there's always opportunity to get the right battery in your boat. I think with X2 Power, we're here for a lot of people. We're here we have elite anglers that are, running all day long fishing for a living to, weekend, fishing tournament anglers, or just someone with a 18.5-foot Glastron fishing ski that's powered by all these. I think the big key is making sure it's the right product for you, right? If it's, there's no reason to put, the biggest, baddest batteries in the world, if all you're doing is starting a 25-4.7 route with it, right?
Sure.
So let's start by where you're going and where you're starting, and getting true understanding of starting batteries to deep cycle, or true deep cycle to dual purpose is really important for people to understand. And when I bought my boat, for instance, he told me, I bought brand new batteries in your boat. You're good to go. The second I opened it up, I saw the issues that there were there. You had 2 starting batteries running my 24-volt Minn Kota. Those were obviously pulled out. The starting battery that was new was, also powering everything else. It needed to be a dual purpose. So, I think even before you talk X2 AGM or lithium, it's really important for people to just take a moment, double check everything that's in their boat, and get the right product for their boat. When it comes to X2 specifically, it's easiest thing to say is it's advanced AGM. AGM is out there, they're great batteries across the board, but a truly advanced AGM is we call thin plate technology. Okay. And think thin plate is the simplicity of more plates in that battery equals more power. Honestly, even the manufacturing process, it requires robotics to be able to have compress those plates to get as many in there as possible. Wow. So what does that do for the customer? It actually does create a true, while these are deep cycle as deep cycle can be, they're also a true dual purpose. So this will, if you want to have for instance, Hunter is running a battery that's starting his troll or starting his engine, and as well as running his graphs. That same battery. It's just got enough power to do both. Now he's also got 3 running his 36-volt trolling motor that is dedicated. But it's truly both. But when you have that technology involved in there and you're putting as much lead as possible in those batteries, you have no movement in the battery. So when you're flying across the water, hitting all those waves, and how much vibration we put on those batteries, it's almost 30% more vibration resistant than your typical batteries.
Wow.
It can, run, in comparable standard batteries, runs 30% longer, runtime. And on top of that, you could charge the thing like you couldn't charge anything else. So a great example would be, if you're running, if we go back to Hunter, if Hunter's running 8 hours of, 4 consecutive days in a tournament, that's one thing. It's those practice days leading up to it where he's putting in way more than 8 hours. So all of a sudden you're fishing all those hours, and the time between you're off the water to you got to get on the water compresses.
Yep.
And you need to be able to have the right charging system in there to really bring those all the way back up. Right? The gas tank has to be full in those batteries, starting tomorrow.
Sure.
And you can put a lot of amperage through our batteries, because of that flat plate technology. So you want to run a 15 amp, 20 amp charger on them? Absolutely. All day long. So it's just, in simple terms, it's a lot of power in the product, an extremely dependable product, and one that you can charge right back up and get going the next day and never have a worry in the world. Now, I say all that with, a battery guy with the boat I just bought, really worry about the batteries real quick and never even look at the charger.
Yeah.
And, when you have a lot of amperage to charge up and you're running a really weak charger, it's not the battery's fault, it's the charger's fault. So, I just pulled my 3 amp or 5 amp per line out and put a 15 in there, and you're right back up and going.
Yeah.
So it's just a beast of battery. And it's really just an outstanding investment for anyone looking to make sure they get the most out of all the toys on the top of the deck, during their weekend.
Yeah. And kind of the probably takeaways from that kind of would be education is a big part still in this industry that needs to be stressed, right? I mean, probably the comparison, just having guys on talking about electronics and wirings of boats and all this and that, there is such a lack of information that people can go and spend ridiculous amount of money, maybe when they don't need to, on a certain battery, and then or or whether it be a graph or whatever it may be, and then not be able to run it because of something. And the charger, for instance, right? I mean, I've replaced a couple of chargers on my boat, and having that 15 to 20 amp charging rate, and we can kind of get into maybe exactly what that means. But basically, yeah, like I stay at a lot of campgrounds, and getting off the water at 7 p.m. at night or whatever it may be, 8 p.m. at night, and then on a practice day, right, getting up at 5 the next morning and making sure that thing's charged. There's been plenty of times I come out to that battery charger and look at under the hood, or not the hood, but I guess the compartment latch on my boat, and there you go. You look at it and you're like, huh, that's not fully charged the next day. And I wonder how long I'm going to make it, and if it's another practice day, I may only have till 2 p.m. the next day. And that sucks, and kind of that dual purpose thing. I've also experienced this last year. I put on new Garmin's, put on Panoptics, and that Panoptics, man, it pulls so much power. So I immediately got a dual purpose battery, and having that need, and still honestly have issues with that. But especially if I'm not cranking that motor every once in a while and moving locations, if I'm sitting in the same area and looking around on Panoptics, that dual purpose is really important on that cranking battery. And just a background, guys, I mean, to bring it to the really low level, on your traditional fishing boat, you're going to have 2 or 3 batteries running your trolling motor, and then 1 battery generally on your cranking that's also going to include all your accessories, your poles, your graphs, all that kind of stuff. You're seeing guys now run 2 of those batteries just because there's so much power, like you were talking about earlier, that kind of a thing. But I think there just needs to be general education around that. And then also chargers on boats, right? I mean, with what you're saying, and I would like to get into this a little bit deeper. As far as charging goes, there has been a thought process. People have said by charging things quicker, you can damage the battery itself, right? As far as that amperage rate. And I'm not a battery geek by any means, but I understand a little bit about how that can happen. I guess, what are your thoughts there? And you said the X2, you've got no issues running those higher amperage hour. What exactly does that mean, and what are those ratings? And I guess talk a little bit about that process.
Yeah, I think it goes back to education again, right? So, the conversation at the point you just made, putting too much amperage through a battery can damage the battery. Absolutely. With some of the older or probably the stable technology, right? Not everyone's going to, invest in the, flat plate AGM or lithium.
Sure.
But the benefits of both of those are that the design, as long as they're designed right, built right, the design can take significantly more amperage, and it will never, ever be a problem.
Okay.
Right. There isn't, an AGM is, absorbent glass mat is what it's
okay.
deemed.
I didn't know
Think
that.
of it as, instead of, electrolytes flowing throughout that battery, liquid, if you will, it's all absorbed around the plates. So by doing that, you're basically building just one solid unit that can take on a lot of power.
I see.
So, in that conversation, as long as you've got the right batteries in there and you do your due diligence to say, all right, what can it accept from a charge rate? We can go well above 20, for instance. What can it accept for a charge rate? Match that charger to the exact battery you have. You're fine. Right. And, some of the everyday flooded batteries, aren't going to require as much, gas, put back into that battery, if you will.
Sure.
So it's okay if you have a 3 or 5 amp charger. It's really all about matching it. So my strong recommendation is always, get the battery to power what you need.
Mm-hmm.
You can do some calculations on all those things that you got to figure out what your draw.
Sure.
And then with that battery, get as strong of a charger as that battery will accept. And then you're not going to open up the back of the boat, at 4 a.m. and go, is that 80% or is that 90%? Right? You want to be 100%. Those guys on our tours, they have to be at 100%. That's a competitive advantage, is making sure that your batteries are going to last.
Oh, I agree. And I mean, I've even, biggest thing in tournament fishing to me is controlling the variables you can control. You can only control so many variables. Things are going to happen. Things are going to break. Hooks are going to have issues. I mean, whatever, but you can control the variables you can control. And there's just so much stress around batteries. And I think it's worth the investment in a lot of situations when we're talking tournament anglers that are serious about it, because man, even this last year in a team tournament, I was worried about that, pulled up and saw that I wasn't fully charged. And I was like, man, what do we do? And I was lucky enough to have another buddy there. We always bring an extra battery, that kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Threw it in the boat as a backup. But it's like, I think about that moment, and it was 4:30 in the morning. We're stressed about getting to the ramp, right? We're trying to get to the tournament on time, getting checked in, all this kind of stuff. And we had to take 30 minutes, unhook a battery from another boat, throw it into that boat just as a backup, make space in the boat for batteries, which are heavy and clunky. And so it was just so much stress there around that moment. And I ended up not needing it, had the power throughout the day because, like you said, tournament day is generally a lot shorter than your practice day the day before, that kind of a thing. But just all that stress, man, goes into maybe your first couple casts being still wired and nervous about everything. And it can just cycle. There's just so much. I don't know. The biggest thing to me is controlling what you can control. And that starts with investments in the base part.
Yeah, you're spot on. You know, I'd even say even beyond that, you know, just you and I were talking about a story I had talking with a customer that, you know, came in looking for boat batteries, you know, was a weekend, you know, in the course of conversation, discovered he was someone who did some weekend angling in tournaments and whatnot. You know, definitely, you know, was looking at his batteries and having really bad moments, you know, in his weekends where all of a sudden his dual purpose battery that starts his motor was dead middle of the day. Right. And, you know, you start to have a conversation, and I told him, I said, he got towed twice on a lake last year. And I said, I can guarantee that battery isn't just starting your motor. You know, better you put the world's, you know, he had the battery in front of me and it wasn't a bad battery. Yeah. I said, I bet you run the radio every now and then. It's like, yeah. I said, how about some graphs? Yeah, I got 4 of them. All right. All of a sudden you start to go. And I said, dude, that battery's doing very little starting and it's doing more powering your boat. You know, you can't put this in there and not expect to get, you know, have to pay someone twice a summer to tow your boat. You know, make the investment now and don't pay the guy to tow your boat. You know,
exactly.
So it's getting the right setup. You know, now experiencing it's, albeit only a local weekend thing. You're already nervous about what spot you're going to go to, and if someone's going to be there at the spot you plan to be, and you don't want to worry about, you know, when I throw that trolling motor in, do I got 4 hours or do I got 8 hours?
Exactly, man. Exactly. Awesome. One other thing I wanted to bring up too, just doing some research on the batteries themselves. So there's with AGMs, right? There's no maintenance required, no more filling the batteries to the top with distilled water, that kind of a thing. And then the other thing that I noticed too, the warranty space in the battery world is kind of crazy to me because everyone's like, okay, well, if I'm going to make this investment, what does the warranty look like and this and that? And ideally, hopefully you don't have to replace things, at least as long as you can. But what does that look like? And I guess you can go both into the non-maintenance side as well as the warranty.
Yeah, non-maintenance side is spot on. You're never putting distilled water in these things. You're not checking, you know, levels. Honestly, because it's fully sealed, you know, we've even had people using, you know, our automotive versions of these, you know, sending us pictures of having it mounted sideways, you know, because they did something in the back of their truck and needed a battery for it.
Sure.
Fully sealed, you don't have to worry about it at all. And really, when you combine everything, you combine fully sealed, you know, pure lead, you know, thin plate technology, great, you know, brass, you know, something like brass terminals that is, you know, just better connection to the electricity flow. You tie all that together, and we're able to, you know, put a 4-year free replacement warranty on these products.
Wow.
Which is really kind of second to none in the industry. We don't want to do prorated or anything like that, where, you know, you have an issue 3 years down the road and you discover, you know, I get $50 back on my battery. I don't get a free battery. Now, these are free replacement warranties. You know, and even some of the issues that typically happen with batteries, especially in the boat, ATV, motorcycle space, you know, where I am, you know, in the winter, is, you know, winter abuse. It's not putting them on the right charger, not maintaining them, leaving them in the boat. You know, even with this technology, it's such that, you know, we can really put a great, you know, charge, you know, through these batteries when you're starting them up, and anything that may have kind of, you know, went bad over the winter is able to kind of recover itself, and you got your battery up and going. So that's the reason we've really truly been able to have that real long AGM warranty that's, you know, pretty much untouched in the industry.
Yeah. Awesome. And one other question when you brought up winter damage, and this is just general battery question personally, selfishly. I keep my boat in the garage in Colorado, right? We've got some pretty nasty winters sometimes. I run that charger. I used to run it all the time, and it would just be on a, just a
Maintenance
right?
mode. Yep.
Right. Yeah. With batteries in general, but also with the X2 batteries, what is the thought process there? Now, what I do is I'll run it, I'll charge it for a while, and then I'll take it off, because I was told that you can just, and this was more with lead acid batteries, you can just drop that. You could eat away at that battery, keeping it charging or in maintenance mode all the time. What's your recommendation for winter storage?
Honestly, for most, they tend to set it and forget it.
Okay.
Right? So, with the right battery that'll hit the right maintenance mode, or right charger rather, that'll hit the right maintenance mode.
Sure.
And keep those batteries at a good trickle charge. It's just giving enough energy in there to keep it charged.
Yeah.
Is perfect. Now, if you are going to be able to go and say, hey, every 30 days, I'm going to go remember to go back out there, give it a little boost and a full charge, perfectly fine. That works. It's just most of us tend to not think about boating in the middle of winter.
Sure.
We're thinking about everything else. So I personally throw them all I take them all out of the boat. They're all sitting up, off to the side of my garage, on a maintainer charger all winter long. And that very first weekend, that's really nice out, in Wisconsin, I want to get that boat out. Right. Sure. I don't have to have that moment where I go, I left the batteries off the charger all winter long, and I'm not going to use my trolling motor today.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and that's probably the most of the time. I mean, you see battery issues on the water all the time, but I would say the vast same with Colorado, man. That first couple days of nice weather, the amount of times I see someone at the boat ramp having issues with starting, and I'm always carrying jumper cables, that kind of a thing, to try and see if get someone started. But it's like, I don't know, man. I'm gonna assume your battery's ruined from.
Yeah, that's the biggest deal all the time. When someone comes in April or May in Wisconsin and says they have a bad battery, we can pretty much tell right away. If you would have just charged it right, it could have got you another year or two.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Well, we'll next we'll kind of get into what basically X2 has in store for 2022. One last thing, I keep saying last thing, but we've noticed a lot of these motor companies now, and I've always been, just through my own research, I think personally I'd like to run, if I'm comfortable with it, lithiums on the trolling motor side, and then have a AGM as my cranking and graph battery, because we're starting to see a lot of these motor companies, Mercury, Yamaha, putting statements out voiding warranties on their new motors by running a lithium in that cranking battery position. I guess, do you have any thoughts on that, and maybe a little bit of a background on why that causes issues to the motor?
Yeah, it's more about, to me, it's more about, the setup that you're talking about is definitely, in my opinion, kind of the angle to go if you want to get lithium in your boat.
Sure.
Right. As you kind of look at, the benefits of that, it's going to come mainly from that deep cycle application anyways.
Yep.
When you're putting, an AGM and the historical lead technology is really great at just delivering a huge amount of power right away. That's what turn the key and it starts something, right? That's been in every car for forever.
Yeah.
That technology isn't bad for that. Outstanding for that.
Yeah.
As you look at lithium, if lithium plays in the deep cycle side, primarily, especially with those bigger motors, it's just better off letting that technology stay there and, letting the lead, really start that product. There's definitely advantage of, the lithium side of the business and whatnot. And that is the latest and greatest conversation and trend. And there are a couple brands out there that have started to, play in the starting application side, of lithium.
Yeah.
I'll say, as we're working, what does 2022 have in store? We're working hard to, bring a line of lithium products, to the marine space. These batteries are marine and RV applications.
Yeah.
Today's environment, you just got we're working hard to get it in time for the season. But we've already been dabbling in lithium. We've been doing a lithium motorcycle line. For ATV motorcycle. This calendar year, we introduced it. You won't have seen it necessarily in our X2 branding efforts yet. We're really focused on the boat, and win one space before you start to worry about the other spaces. But we're working hard for it. But when we do launch it, I absolutely see a world where, that boat, you pull up the back of the boat, you got 3 green top batteries like you see behind me here. Lithium batteries running your trolling motor if that's what you choose, and that blue top AGM dual purpose, running everything else. So it's really a kind of a brand that's got the best of both worlds, if you will.
Yeah. Well, awesome. That's kind of my thought. We're glad to hear that that's at least a valid thought process, if you will.
Yep.
Okay. So man, 2022's got some exciting stuff in store. And like you said, I guess COVID and everything else just in any industry right now, it's very hard to get products in place, pushing, man. I mean, gosh, everything is just crazy. But it sounds like you've got some awesome stuff in store. What kind of trade shows or classic, that kind of stuff do you have planned for 2022?
So 2022 we're actively planning right now. We already know we're going to be at the Classic again. Nice. We'll be at Red Crest as well on the offside of things.
Yeah.
Continue to work with our anglers this year, and continue to want to work with them and expand also that team, if you will. So we got a couple folks that we'll be announcing shortly here that have just signed on with us as well. You'll see this continue to expand in 2022. We'll continue to have that local, kind of that more local grassroots ABA and ABC type of deal. There's a couple others that we've been talking about being a part of, and just want to make sure that we're not only helping with that local sponsorship, but also there to have some great conversations with those folks that participate in those events. So I think you'll see us grow into the space. I think there's a lot of excitement for, I said, in the industry, for the boat battery industry, for a long time. There really hasn't been this great big technology shift like we're starting to see with lithium. Mm-hmm. So working hard to get that product, across the line for, not only the bigger boat battery sizes, but also, there's this whole growing industry. You're well aware of it, in the kayak space, kayak angling space, that is so intriguing, to me as I've gotten into this, and seeing the power demands that are put on, a real small kayak like that is really crazy, and it's almost like an application that only a lithium could live up to, that without it causing tons of weight being added to that.
Sure. Yeah. It makes sense.
So 2022 is all about, continue to expand our team, really continuing to get to know, our anglers and our team and see what we can do together going in. And you complement that with an expanded line and assortment of products available. And 2022 is a pretty great outlook.
Awesome, man. Awesome. Well, let's get into kind of wrapping the show up here. So first off, I like to ask all the guests that come on their personal bests. And if you've caught all of these things, I know Wisconsin probably doesn't have much spotted bass, but let's talk about personal best: largemouth, smallmouth, and spotted bass. What you caught them on, and where you were, if you remember kind of some of those details for yourself, man.
All right, so spotted bass, I've never caught one.
Okay.
I've never yet, and I'm going to get there. Hoping actually the tail end of this year, getting a little further south. Getting into some bigger largemouth and whatnot, spotted bass.
Sure.
In terms of kind of my angling career, I guess it's been really getting into the last 18, 24 months, a lot bigger than I was before. So I'd say on the largemouth space, I have a rough number. Because when I was growing up, it was all about, pursuing the 18, 19, 20-inch bass, not putting it on a scale.
Sure.
So probably roughly in the, low threes, for a largemouth. Smallmouth has been all about up north, though. I hooked into, 4-pound, 11-ounce on a Ned rig this year.
Nice.
Basically got yanked in a big boulder and stuck between two boulders. You get that tug, and all of a sudden you get hit again. It's pretty awesome to pull that, get that out of there. So that's my personal best there on smallmouth. And I'm heading up there Friday, literally 3 days from now, heading back up there. So hoping I can put one over 5 in the boat.
Heck yeah, man. Awesome. Let's I guess you've had some awesome advice throughout the show, but if you could have one piece of advice to someone looking to build a brand and your unique experience, especially in fishing industry over this last year, what's your biggest piece of advice to someone looking to be in that situation or just working in the fishing industry in general?
As being someone that is brand new and meeting all new people here, honestly, it's just relationships. I can see that it's such a well, as you get into it, it's this huge industry. It's been Coda and Abu Garcia and Berkeley and all these major brands and Phoenix and all those. And you look at it and you go, this is a huge industry we're getting into. What is our space and how does our brand participate and kind of join in the fray? And once you really get into it, it has this one relationship leads to the next relationship, leads to the next relationship. And those moments of great conversation have really been able to expand. And you recognize that even brands that don't have a direct correlation to batteries, you meet some of the folks from there and they're helping you or giving you hints and tips and tricks on how to kind of crack into a customer segment. It's just all about relationships. And I've loved to be able to have that opportunity this year, and really can't wait to continue to strengthen those kind of over this winter period coming up into spring of next year.
Awesome, man. Awesome. Well, let's talk about X2 batteries, where everyone can follow everything, as well as purchase the batteries themselves. Kind of as a closing here, what does that all look like? Where can people get them?
All right, follow our socials. We have X2 Power Battery on both Instagram and Facebook. Our community continues to grow. Just been amazed at how fast we've been able to go from literally zero followers to quite a few in a very short time period. There's also x2powerbattery.com. And all of our X2 Power batteries are sold exclusively at Batteries Plus stores across the country. So there's 700 plus, almost in 48 states, Alaska, Puerto Rico, all across this country. Ready to, great people ready to have great conversations and either talk about X2, or if X2's, not what you need for your boat, let's talk lithium, or let's even talk about regular, standard marine batteries that walking into a Batteries Plus store, we'll give you that great conversation and help you learn more about our products.
Absolutely, man. We've got, gosh, just where I'm at, I think I've got 3 or 4, just within probably 20 miles of me. And that's where I get my batteries. It's been an awesome experience there. They kind of have helped with our local bass club even too, and that kind of a thing. So it's been great. So glad to hear that X2 is in those stores, and awesome, man. Well, that's great. Man, Shawn, more than anything,